Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, December 14th, and the time is 6:34 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First up is our consent agenda. The minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Any questions or comments, additions, subtractions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next up is the warrants 0035 and 0036. Any questions or comments? Can I have the motion to approve the warrants?
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants. Wait a minute.
Something not lining up?
Were they from last week? Yeah, I don't see in the folder. I don't see the warrants.
I don't either. All right. Well, we'll keep it to the next time if they're not in the folder. I think that might have been from last time,
I
but
think so.
Yeah, well, 3-3 and 3-2 were last time,
Yeah.
so no,
Correct.
so they're just not posted.
correct. I don't see them there. So I did not look them over.
Okay, so we will, and they're not here for us to sign, so we will move that to next agenda. Okay, we're going to go to our work group meetings, right up front. The community relations and policy subcommittee are the two, work groups. How long do we want to have to break out for? Did we say we were gonna come back for a certain time?
7:15.
I think, did we say 7:15? That's,
Yeah.
I think, what we said in the meeting last time. So
It was
7:15,
posted
so
outside.
yeah, 45 minutes. So 7:15, we'll come back and report out and then go through the rest of the agenda. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. All right, we're back. 7:50 or 7:16. First up is second up, I guess, is we'll report out on the work group meetings. Community relations is on the agenda first, so I guess I'll go first. It was just Stephanie and I tonight. Glenn was not able to make it, and we didn't have any other visitors. But one of the things we were talking about is we had been working in the past couple of meetings and getting a survey out. And we were just talking that we're not sure that we feel like this is actually going to be a viable option, just because we feel like people might be getting a little bit of survey fatigue. And we're wondering if it's going to really garner any of the useful data that we're looking for. And we're kind of struggling a little bit. And after Tracy's budget presentation, and we used all the options like that we've been talking about to try to get people, we didn't really have great results. So we need to try to figure out what new ideas we can use. And one thing is, if we do go with the survey, we're thinking we need to come up with a way that we could do some kind of a paper copy, but then it's, becomes a logistical nightmare. How do we get it out there for people? Do we leave it at places for people to pick it up? Is it just going to become fodder for someone's fire? So we do need to kind of iron that out, and we would like to have some discussion with you guys on that, but let me get through the rest of my stuff and we can circle back. If we're going to do the survey, we need some more targeted questions, because we need to know what it is that we're trying to get and collect from people. And I think that that's where we both landed on, is we need our why for the community relations. Like, we've been talking about multiple different areas of what it is that we're looking for, but the bottom line is, what is it that we're looking to actually get from people when we connect with them? So we need to be able to give them information. I think it's more about pushing out than pulling in. And I think that's where I'm struggling, is what is it that we push out to people that they don't know or understand. So one of the things that we were talking about is we really need to do some in-person something to try to connect with people in a different way, just to be available. So it's like, do we go on a Friday morning to the senior center? And Stephanie looked up and they do cards on Fridays. Do we show up with a snack and sit and play cards and just kind of try to talk to people and connect with them? Do we then try to do something in afternoon or early evening? And what would we do? How would we get people? And then again, what's our why? Is it about school choice and how do we keep resident students from leaving? Is it that we just want them to understand that if they vote for the schools at town meeting, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a tax increase? Like, I think that there's a disconnect there, that people don't always vote for the school budget because they feel like that automatically increases their taxes. People have mentioned that to me. So I think there's some information and some teaching that we could do. We want to make sure that we convey to people that supporting the school and having a good school district is a benefit to the community. And what are the ways that it's visible to them, where market and home prices will benefit from a positive school system. We're the biggest employer in town. And also that, when people say that they don't want to continue the high school, which Stephanie was saying she's heard from people thinking that would be a good way, is that we need to make sure that they understand that there are expenses that will live here regardless of what happens next door or here. Like, there's things that we're responsible for, like health insurance and retirement and things like that. And then having to pay for the kids that go somewhere else. And I think that's the biggest piece of the puzzle that people don't understand. We're still paying for kids that school choice out of district. So there's that connection that we need to do. And how do we want to use the information that we're trying to collect from people? What is it that we're trying to do with it? And then we need to prove that these are just a couple random statements. We need to prove that the school committee and the school district in general offer a benefit to the community at large. Besides just the educating of the kids, like we have buildings that community events can happen. We're a place where Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever, rec
Isn't the high school
basketball.
like a shelter in place building too?
Yeah, the high school is actually the town designated emergency shelter. So in Snowtober, October of 2011, people lived in the high school, I think for 7 or 8 days. There was the kitchen, as I understand it, there was food that was laid out. People could use the showers. There were cots set up in the gym and in the cafeteria. And there were people that stayed there. So that's a benefit too, is that if there's a disaster in town, that's where people are going to be sent. It's sort of like the staging area. Another question, how do we get people to engage with us? How do we get them to attend meetings, to talk to us so that we can collect the information? And then, we're still doing the Zoom meetings and we're open to the Zoom meetings, but are we feeling like people I put zoomed out? Like, are they, is it too much now? So that was sort of the onslaught of the conversation. Ultimately, I feel like I personally lost my way a little bit on what it is that we're trying to, like, we need our why,
Well, we are trying to develop community.
Right, but we're trying to develop community, but what's the end game for it?
I think ultimately, for me anyway, it was how can we best reach everybody? So our reason for the survey is how can we best reach you? Would you prefer mail? Would you prefer social media, video clips? Is there apps that they're already on that, we don't really have an active Facebook page. Not everybody's on Facebook, but a social, other than our school website, are we out there on social media doing active as a district sharings? We've talked about wanting to get the public in here more. Obviously with COVID, that makes it challenging, so that they're seeing what they're investing their tax dollars without the increases of any taxes, what they're investing in.
So that's interesting because when we were talking about the survey questions, that was never one of the ones how to reach people. It was like, what matters most to you? You know, do you know about the school budget? You know, what would you like to see for improvements for the district? It's not, I mean, so even that idea didn't make it into our list when we had 4 or 5 people sitting there talking about it. And I do know that the high school is doing a pretty good job on Instagram. Like almost everything has, when I say everything, like the JV, I mean the girls basketball, boys basketball, wrestling, winter track club that we just approved.
So what's the page?
Well, it's on Instagram. You just have to search them
Granby
up.
Public Schools?
It's
That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to get that kind of stuff out there.
so it's like you
but
follow one and they start to show up.
Okay.
I am not a social media expert.
I am not either.
Me neither.
But
But I know that sometimes like that when people do finally sit to relax or whatever, they're usually scrolling through something of some sort, you know.
So I know,
what is
like,
the-
Miss Jordan has GJSHS_principal.
Yep.
And then there's GranbyGirls.hoops, Granby_high_athletics. And then, you know, each individual class has one.
Yep.
What is yours? What was?
Mine is at Sullivan_Ram fam.
Do I follow you? I think I
You do.
did.
And I mean, I'm not, but I know that was one of, you know, just how we can get ourselves out there that people, and I don't even know, I'm not an Instagram, I have one, but I don't go on it very often either. And like I said, Facebook's not the end all be all, but how can we get out so that people can, with a click or just while they're scrolling, it just scrolls through their feed, stuff that's happening. So they're seeing right now, especially when we can't get them necessarily in the doors, what's happening. And
So
what
that's
they're
something I
investing
hadn't
in.
thought about is can we even do a school committee page?
Well, there was previously a school committee Facebook page, but I don't even know who the owner of that is.
It might have been Emery or
I don't know.
Deanna. But that's an interesting idea.
Granby used to have one.
Granby has, and then it got stopped, and then it was open again, and then something stopped again.
So can one of us do it? And I don't know how it works. Can multiple people be an owner of a Instagram thing?
Not a clue.
So what would it be? What would we want? At Granby?
I believe so.
Granby School Committee?
Not to get derailed, but like that's where, like,
That's an excellent idea though.
okay. To me, that's what the survey was about, is how are we best reaching people? How are
Ooh,
we,
good work.
you know, filling them in on all of the good that's happening here? To make them want to stay, to make them more knowledgeable of course offerings at the high school. Like, I want to like dispel as much as we can all the misinformation
So,
that's
I
constantly
don't
out there by
think-
filling in all the good stuff.
So I don't think that we as a school committee is responsible for course offerings. I don't want to go down that road.
Right,
Because that's ultimately
Sure, yeah,
not, we might vote on saying yes to a partnership for a dual enrollment, or we might vote in a new curriculum. But that's Stevens and his district leadership team to specifically choose what's going to be offered, because it will vacillate a little bit depending upon the interest level of the kids. You know, are all the kids taking AP bio, or are they all going to be dual enrolled bio at HCC? So there won't be a need to offer AP bio. That might be a conversation that they're having. But so that's where I can go around and around with you about is there's a very fine line for, like, that's not our job
correct.
as the school committee to be communicating those specific things, but on a higher level, what's doing good. But really, like, that's where I'm having trouble is what is specifically our why for this community relations. You know, we need it to get the word out about financial situations, and, you know, we can relay other things that the schools are doing, but we're not the spokespiece for the individual schools. And I think that's where I'm having a hang up is, you know, we can relay information that something fantastic happened at East Meadow, but that should be already starting to, you know, we can push that out further. So I don't know if the goal of what we want to do with this community relations is to develop, to be the liaison between the schools and the community. And if that's the case, then that's a completely,
different beast.
it's a completely different interfacing kind of animal. But I've been on this committee for a couple of years and we keep spinning our wheels because it feels like maybe it's a big ask. You know, like we want to get out in front of the community, absolutely, but I'm not sure, again, what's our why?
And I think just going off of that too, it is tricky because like when you think of our role as school committee, we do need to like tread lightly, like, you know, onto what is our role. Like you said, we can promote things that are happening, but at the end of the day, like we're here for, you know, a very specific reason, or like our cause is, it's hard. It's a slippery slope.
Do you know
I feel
where,
like.
do you
Do you know what I mean?
understand?
Yeah, and I think like everything that I'm hearing needs to be done, right? It can't just be one of these things. It can't just be the school committee has a Facebook page and the principal has an Instagram page. I think it all needs to happen. But I think one of the whys that I'm hearing is like, how do we do a better job of helping people understand what is offered at Granby Junior Senior High School? That's something I've heard come up time and again, and clearly I haven't done a good enough job in my roles getting that out, but I think like that's something that keeps coming up. So I think as school committee members and parents, like communicating that to me, that this parent has some concern. Can we get them in for a walkthrough? I'd like to bring them in. I'd like to meet with Allie and the leadership team at the junior senior high school. These three groups of families are considering school choicing out. We've heard, can we set something up with them? And I think like that's part of our role too. And I think because you're living in the community and have kids in the community, so you're gonna have connections to parents that I might not have, like giving the heads up and saying like, how can we connect us? I do think that's something that we can do. And I think that's part of the why, right? Because if people are leaving the district based on misinformation or misperceptions, then we should take that opportunity to clarify that.
So, I mean, to me, I'm looking at as getting information, but it's really about community engagement, understanding what our community needs and what we provide for the community through the school. So, I mean, but it's understanding what they want to see from us and then letting them know what we are doing for them.
Yeah, and I think we just sometimes need to know that question, right? The question about a group of families in 4th and 5th grade considering potentially leaving after 6th grade, that's something that we can answer. I mean, we might not give them an answer that changes their mind, but that's something we can try to intervene in and say, you know, like our kids have been in school together all this time, like the junior senior high school offers this, and this. That you may not be aware of. We can get you in for a tour. We can have open houses. We can, like, those types of opportunities might, you know what, and if it's 5 families and we keep 2, then that's 2 families that we wouldn't have had. I think that's part of the why, right? And I think it connects to the budget, right? But it also connects to something that I've said before, and I know I've heard it here, that I want the Granby Public Schools to be the first choice for Granby families. I believe that it should be, and some people might disagree right now, but maybe they don't know everything that's happening, and maybe they do, and they're making a different choice because we might not offer something. And I think that's something we have to be honest about as well. We're not going to be able to offer everything that Chicopee Comprehensive might offer, or we're not going to offer arts programs like PVPA, like some of those things we just won't be able, if it's that like type of niche, then we might not be able to get that. But there's a lot of things. One thing that I'm going to talk about later tonight in the superintendent's report is we're working on building out like a computer science pathway. We believe we have like the starting of a pathway and adding a couple of courses that can, and building some partnerships that would offer students internships in computer science and cybersecurity and things like that, that we don't hear a lot about in other districts right now. And that's something I've said probably 100 times, that when I first came to Granby, I think Granby was one of only a dozen schools in Massachusetts that had computer science advanced placement at that time. There's many more now, but we still offer AP computer science, and we're going to start offering the cybersecurity class, also partnering with HCC so that other information technology classes can be offered. And our goal is that that leads to partnerships and eventually job placement. We talk about stackable credentials, that what can we give our students that sets them apart from their peers in other districts. And yeah, it's going to take some time to build it, but we're taking some of those steps every day. And not everybody's going to be privy to that. And not everyone's going to watch a school committee meeting and listen to me talk about it. So how else can we advertise it? I think a point Jen made early on, talking, meet people where they're at. The senior center, if they're playing cards on Friday, I do think going there. Booster club meeting to talk to those parents, a GAA meeting, a Boy Scouts meeting. I think we need, if people aren't coming to us, we need to go to them.
I like that, like a collectively, because again, like then we can support, admin, like if you come with us, or, one of the high school principal or the East Meadow principal, like, and we go as a collective, like that's also, I think would be nice versus like just maybe Jen or I going to kind of, it helps everyone really, talk about their parts and like how we're all working together kind of would be nice to have. Versus us trying to say like, we are here for policy and for, but it allows that to kind of not get lost in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because so much of it, like we should all be doing anyways, hopefully, right? Like that's our goal, is that everyone's could be communicative. So.
And I think like we talk a lot about the budget and we want to inform people about the budget, but when it comes down to it, if we're offering things that they want for their students, that's what they want to hear. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's where, though, that's becoming very inward again, rather than, because that's very limited to the school community, but, the outward community, that's where we felt like we needed to work. Like this community relations, I thought was supposed to be the greater community at large. And that's where I'm struggling a little bit.
I feel like it all plays in though, in my mind, because even though, maybe we're talking about a certain demographic of people that are at the senior center, but maybe they have nieces, nephews, grandkids that are going to be someday looking to buy a house and that they're also like, hey, you would hope that they want to keep bringing their families back generationally too. That if the narrative is there, that the schools are good and just the good things that are happening, expelling that positive information out there, I just think is also a benefit too, from any aspect.
Well, I appreciate you guys having that, because I was feeling a little frustrated, so I'm not feeling as frustrated, so this is good.
Good.
All right, policy, anything else on that? I think we kind of beat that one into the ground a bit. Policy subcommittee.
Yeah, so we talked about taking a first look at section D, which was about fiscal management, and taking that and looking at changes that potentially align with our policy and masks as well. So we're going to take a first look at that and come back in subcommittee and look at any changes that we'll bring forward to propose to the full committee.
From MASC, mask,
That's what I said.
clarifying.
It sounded like math.
Masks.
Oh,
Yeah,
mask.
it is, but MASC, Massachusetts Association of School Committees, I'm just clarifying.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. Sorry for that. And then the second area that we kind of looked at was noted under the section I, it already existed and we just had to kind of go through it. It was just talking about animals in school and service animals and what the policy was for Granby. So we just talked a little bit through that and made sure the policy was up to date, which it was because we had taken a look at policy I just in the spring, I believe. So that was all set. And other than that, that's what we talked about there. And we did meet prior to here as the other subcommittee for the evaluation. So I don't know if you want to hear a little bit of update on that as well.
I think we can, because it was a work group meeting. I think it's appropriate to have that report out now.
Okay, so we did meet, like I said, on that as well. We talked about establishing a timeline in terms of the evaluation process, coming up with a shared public folder that would be available to anyone in the community to take a look at any potential evidence, that Stephen was collecting throughout the course of the evaluation. And then also what the process would look like, a folder for the school committee, just in terms of documents for that one centrally located area so that we could just refer to refresh ourselves if there were any questions about the process. So we didn't have to go searching for anything. And also noting that the formative assessment we'd take a look at sometime in January, just something that would be proposed as an agenda item in one of our meetings, where we kind of talk through current progress on goals. And then the summative evaluation, which would be that end of cycle evaluation, would have Stephen present to us, sometime toward the end of May. And then we'd look to the subcommittee would look to take information and kind of organize it for the full committee to then go through the actual evaluation at one of our potential June meetings. That was basically that.
And through that process, I did add a couple of things to the calendar. As like we were, looking at it. Let's see what the thing is. I'm good. I can't think of what it was. There was something else when she was talking that came to my head.
All right. I don't know if we have any people, but next up is visitors' comments. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. Do we have anybody?
You took 3 all employees,
Yeah,
but
it's
Yeah,
all.
one's Ally, one's Sue, and then you have.
Kristen?
Kristen.
Other
No, she comes every time.
Any visitor comments? Appears no. Okay, Marcus is working a fundraiser at the girls' home game, and he just wanted me to pass along that the reason they were doing that is that a member of their class, the father had a medical issue, so they're raising money, and it's a 50-50 that they're doing, and the 50% will go to their classmate. So they were glad to be able to do that, and he sends his apologies for not being able to make the meeting. I haven't heard from Cheryl, and I didn't see her on there. We'll move right along. Continuing business, mask update.
no new news on the mask update. Granby's is still in place, and at this time, Desi's is still in place until January 15th. and I have not heard any potential changes on that at this time. But there is a commissioner's call tomorrow, but we don't always get a heads up on what is on that agenda.
Okay, next is winter sports spectator plan.
Yeah, so sorry, I thought this was in the folder, but I emailed it to you all, if you didn't get it in there. In an effort to comply with the current Granby Board of Health mandate, which does require 6 feet of distance when possible, we are proposing that we only allow home fans at indoor athletic events until further notice. This is certainly something we can revisit. I think we want to continue playing winter sports, and my feeling is complying with the Board of Health mandate as best as we can, gives us the best pathway to do that. I think even with this, in some ways, it is difficult to enforce. I've also let Brittany know and Ally know that it's not my expectation that we're getting into confrontations with people at games or anything like that. But I think really we want to show good faith and that we're doing our best to comply with that mandate. And, in some ways, this is the best way to do that and allows our home fans, our students, our community, our parents to attend home games. There are some other communities who are doing the same thing, not everybody, but considering we are in a surge at this point, I think Granby's up 20-something cases since yesterday, and we just want to make sure that we can continue our season because our student athletes did lose a lot last year not being able to participate. So just a step in that direction.
Excellent. Any questions or anything on that? Okay, you're up. Superintendent's report.
I would ask that we put a vote on that. I don't know that it requires, but it didn't say, so.
Oh, I'm fine with that. Are you all comfortable
Are
with?
people comfortable with that?
Mhm.
I think, in full disclosure, we started implementing it tonight because it was our first home basketball game. It just happened to fall. And of course, tonight's game is against South Hadley. So it's like our neighboring community, which in some ways will probably present the most challenges, not because it's South Hadley, but they have the least distance to travel and
Well, I'll tell you,
everything
there
that
was,
comes with that.
so if people aren't familiar, there's always like the home side and the visitor side, and typically Granby fans sit across from the Granby bench. So when you walk in that back door, it's the one, when you walk in immediately on your right. And so all the fans are straight ahead. And there was only Granby kids, like little kids, sitting in the like supposed visitor section. So
Okay.
for JV, it looked like it was working. And I think a bunch of people that I was sitting with were like, well, how are they going to enforce this if it's only, and I was like, well, I think it's one of those things that we're going to do our best. It's out there, and we're going to hope that other towns aren't going to try to be sneaky, just like they're going to hope that when we go, we're not going to try to be sneaky. So it's a little bit of a, on your honor type thing, but it looked pretty good at the JV game, and I was impressed with the number of people that were there for a JV game. I think people are just so excited to have
To be out.
and seeing the kids play. And I did get notice that the girls JV won their first game, so that's exciting.
And I'll be the first indication that we can back off of something like this. I'll be the first one to ask that.
So if we do
We
that, then we
back
have,
off.
if you back off, then we have to rescind the vote, right? You have to come
We
back
would-
before.
Yes,
Okay, so so then if that's the case, then you can't do it until we have the vote.
Right.
So are you sure you want to go ahead with the vote?
I mean, I don't know that it's gonna make a difference in the way that we operate. If January,
fine.
as of January 4th, if we're having problems, I could ask for a vote. If you're
Right.
okay, just moving forward.
I'm okay doing the vote now. I'm just saying, if things change or what have you, and you want to pull it back or whatever, then you can't do that until we have a vote.
Right.
So I'm fine with it. Does anyone want to make the motion to implement the winter sports spectator plan as noted?
I'll make the motion.
Excellent. Can I have a second?
I can second.
Any other final questions or comments before we vote?
I mean, I guess just real quick, I just want to thank Alex from GCAM for also, it says that they're going to be live streaming. I mean, this is actually like a lot more inclusive than other communities that I've seen. Like, I feel like we're really, I think it's great to allow home spectators. The GCAM's going to be there live streaming the games. It's great to see that we're going to be doing all of this so people can watch from at home safely if they feel that that's best or can't attend or go in. So it's just a big thank you because I know they don't have to be doing that. It's just a really good thing that they're doing for us. So I think we're good.
Excellent. All those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you. So superintendent's report, I will be quick. Just a reminder, I think there's 2 more calls headed your way. That December 23rd is an early dismissal day. So that calendar has been updated on our website, junior, senior high school at 11 o'clock and East Meadows 11:40, just like any other dismissal. Also happy to announce, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, that we have once again earned a grant from Project Lead the Way in partnership with Lockheed Martin. They've partnered to address the nation's critical need for future engineers, computer scientists, and math and science trained professionals, and to equip all students with the knowledge and skills they need to thrive. And the junior senior high school was just awarded just today a $10,000 grant to add a cybersecurity class to our program of studies. Our plan is to begin that in the 22-23 school year. So thank you to Ms. Jordan and Sue Crago who partnered on writing that grant. This is the 4th grant we've gotten from Project Lead the Way in the past, I think, 4 years, total of about $40,000. So trying to find ways to get resources and materials that we need without having to put it all on our operational budget. Also excited to announce last Wednesday, December 8th, we had another vaccination clinic. We had 170 vaccinations given out at that. And I believe it was about 55 or 60 were pediatric vaccinations. There were also boosters and everything. And we're announcing tonight our next vaccination clinic is Saturday, January 8th. So we're doing a Saturday clinic. It is from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It will be in the East Meadow Gym. Nancy is working with the company to see if we can do online signups. It's becomes a challenge for her should anything change, having to contact 170 people in a short time span. So trying to get it a little bit more automated. Also want to announce to everyone, this will also be posted on our website. The week after next, the holiday week, obviously school is closed for students, but offices will be open for business. Central office will be open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The junior senior high school will be open Monday and Tuesday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. East Meadow School will be open Tuesday and Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And all offices and buildings are closed on Friday, December 31st. And that's posted and it will be in the weekly reminders from both schools.
Excellent. Is that it?
That's it for me.
Okay, Adam.
Okay, I got a few things here. First, we're still dealing with some minor issues from the lightning strike that we had experienced over the summer. Just some odds and ends that we're trying to clean up with the company that's providing us with service and parts and all that. So we are 95% there, but John and I are constantly in contact with them, trying to clean this up and getting this finished so we can submit all of our stuff to the insurance and have that closed out. So I just wanted to update you on that we are still dealing with that. Questions on that? We are experiencing some issues with the boilers at the high school. So we will need to make some repairs and purchase some parts that were not in our operating budget. To this point, we are able to cover those costs without having to go to the town or finance committee to have some money transferred. So again, I just wanted to keep everyone in the know that we do have some repairs that we need to make. They're not anything we can push off. We need to make them. They are going to cost us some money, but for right now, we can absorb that with our operating budget.
Do we keep track of when we do that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
like I feel like that should be noted. you know?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we do some, I'm not gonna call it major maintenance, but we do some major maintenance every year around $10,000 that, cleans the boilers, pretty much a checklist of things to keep the boilers at the high school running as efficiently and as possible due to their age and all that. So we do have a yearly amount that we spend on that, but we also do track it. And again, we're getting into the winter time, so a lot of the problems with the boilers are gonna show up now when we're running them at essentially 24 hours a day for 7 days a week. But yes, we do keep track of that stuff.
I think that's a good question, Audrey, and a question that I asked of Adam when I started asking these types of questions. And as we know, like our budget is built on projections, and every now and then you realize a savings here and you realize something's going to cost more there. A teacher left and now you're paying more for a teacher. So it is this back and forth, but I think our ability to pay for something like this, is dependent on, right? When we go to town meeting and say, this is the budget that we need to move forward, this keeps us off of town meeting floor and asking for unanticipated, because we can absorb some little shifts. If it gets too far beyond that, we're going to have to go for an unanticipated expense. But like that's kind of how the process works. We have to make a sacrifice here and there to make it work. But I think that's a result of it. And I think Jen mentioned it last week where, some departments you go line by line by line, it's, it does shift a little bit for us because these things come up that we didn't expect. You might need something for a boiler, you might need a window breaks that you just can't plan for everything. So it does allow us some flexibility.
Yeah, to be clear, these repairs are a few $1,000s,
Right.
not $10,000 or $20,000 repair. So just to be clear, there are a few $1,000s, but some of the maintenance that we do on a yearly basis that is built into our budget are $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 costs to maintain, mostly the mechanicals at the high school. But yes, these are smaller dollar amounts that we don't have in our budget, but we can absorb them because we've realized some smaller savings elsewhere throughout the year.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So by keeping records, do you also anticipate, like with East Meadow, now that we've been in here for a while, are you factoring in those costs as time goes on?
Yep. Certainly.
And an increase?
Mhm. Yep. Any other questions on that? On December 3rd, I'm pretty sure you guys are all aware that the town experienced a power outage that affected us. So just real quick, power went out here. The generator at East Meadow kicked on like it should. There's another part called a switch gear that then the generator energizes and then powers the building. That didn't work properly. So what happened is the pump for our water in the district is controlled through that mechanism. When that didn't energize quickly, the high school lost water pressure for a brief amount of time, maybe 15, 20 minutes, half hour or so. John quickly found the problem. We got everything back up and running, but it did cause a little bit of an inconvenience at the high school due to that lost water pressure. So what we are going to do on December 27th, which is that Monday following Christmas, no students will be here, very limited staff will be here. We are going to simulate a power outage just to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Hopefully it was a one-time thing and everything going forward will work correctly. If not, then we can find out what the problem is and fix it. So I just wanted everyone to be aware on December 27th. Again, there will be no students, very limited staff here. We're gonna hopefully run through a little simulation and we can eliminate that problem going forward. It was really just to kind of keep you guys in the know about that.
Any chances that that's related to the lightning strike? 'Cause I thought about that when the powers went out.
Yeah,
Like,
we
well, we're
kind
gonna
of had
find
that.
out if there's anything else.
We had that conversation. John doesn't believe so, but it could be. But I think it's just an isolated thing, coincidental, but I think it's isolated. So, but we will have some more information.
So,
to go through.
not that we lose power a lot anymore, but we used to. Is there anything in place that we can, like, every year test?
So we
to make
check-
sure it's
so
still
John
functional.
does yearly generator tests and maintenance. Again, I think this was an isolated incident. Very well could be related to the power outage. We don't know. But again, when we do the simulation on 12/27, if everything works as it should, then it was a one-time thing. If it doesn't, then we'll know we'll have a problem that we need to address and fix it. So.
Was East Meadow delayed also with the generator? Like, did it take a little bit longer than it should have to turn on?
Yeah, and so
Okay.
it was fixed pretty quickly by the time John figured out we didn't have power fully and then went to this, it's called a switch gear and tripped it and then everything worked. But there was some delay there.
And is there any, because it's newer, the building, is there any warranty, do we know, on the generator or on the work that was done to put it in?
Yeah, so I can follow up, John. I don't believe so. We're out of that warranty
We're out of that?
period. And we
Okay.
just had some work done to the generator here, actually in the fall. But I believe we're out of warranty with that, but I can certainly check with John and follow up with you. Questions? Good. SR3. So we have been keeping you guys up to date. Our SR3 application, which was submitted to the state, we have been waiting for the town to send us their procurement policy because the state was holding all applications that included facilities, work, and construction in it until they had town procurement policies. We had forwarded that to the state. The state had just responded last week that the policy that we had forwarded them was not acceptable and that we would be hearing from the state's audit and compliance department to see what the next steps are, what additional information they need from us. So as it stands right now, our SR3 application is still on hold at the state level.
All right.
And we haven't heard from the.
Yeah, I haven't
They
heard
said
from
we'd hear
the-
shortly, but
Yep.
we haven't heard anything. We've
That
been
email
waiting
was
for that.
beginning of last week, so
It might be worth trying to follow up before the break,
Yep.
just so it doesn't get lost.
certainly.
That'd be great.
Yep, I can do that and then keep you posted, but yeah.
Perfect.
And then lastly, I just put two budget reports in the folder. One's year to date through November of our operating budget, and another one is school lunch revenue through November. You guys have any questions, comments on it?
It's so nice to see green for lunch.
Yeah, there's a, so we are in that last year of our contract. Remember, we renewed it last year because of COVID, so we will have to go out to bid for this, I would say late winter, early spring. But there's a few emails going around on the listserv at the state level about how districts that are in the position that we're in going out for bid, how they're going to treat if the free lunch continues, or if they bring back paid meals and how we're going to address that in our bid spec. So the few responses so far have been, they're gonna treat it like it's a normal year without, everyone universal free lunch, which not knowing anything going into the bid process, that would be the way to handle it, and we can adjust accordingly. But it is being talked about throughout the state, so.
So what type of meals are they providing now? Would we consider them an adequate one-to-one to what it was like in 2019?
Yeah, I think the only difference really is the options that they're getting, and they're getting more options this year than they did last year through COVID. I think that would be the biggest difference, but they're getting an adequate meal and adequate servings at breakfast and lunch.
So what is the cost to, not us, but to the organization that's providing those
What
meals?
organization?
Like,
So the state is providing those meals.
do we know what that cost is?
I
Not the actual cost, not what they're saying.
could find out.
Okay, because I'm just looking at, because we have to factor in the inflation in how much it's going to cost us once we start going back to a typical contract.
Yep.
How much is it actually going to cost us?
Yep. And we'll get into those conversations as we go through our bid specs, but I can certainly.
I would just start feeling like what those numbers would actually look like if we actually had to pay for it.
And I think our numbers will come down for service off the free lunch. If we go back to having to pay for lunch, I know,
Less participation.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yep, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. Again, there's talk out there about what the impact would be of,
I just
going
think it'd be
away with the free
weird to
lunch.
do that after having
Yep.
it for now. I mean, food insecurity hasn't gone away.
Right.
And like Tracy pointed out to us, our numbers are climbing in those areas. It would,
Yep.
it seems like it would be a wise decision
Yep.
to,
Well, what is it that qualifies us to have? Because I know there are some districts that have it. It's based on what their status is.
like
It's-
Chicopee went to that, but they're, right, for
Yeah,
free
it's
lunch
called
for everybody.
community eligibility, so you need to
It's
be a
based
certain
on a certain
percentage of free
percentage. I didn't know if we
reduced.
knew what that percentage even was.
It's 40%, I
Okay.
believe. I can double check, but I believe it's 40%, and we're not.
We're not there,
Yeah.
but
Well, pre-COVID, we weren't close to that.
We might be.
Everything's changed now, so we could be closer to it. We are closer. I don't know how close. But that's the stipulation. I mean, there's no other way to get there
Right.
besides our free reduced percentage.
if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to have that for the next time you report on that, just before we go to the bid process, just so we can kind of start to think about it, because that would be a decision that, perhaps we need to consider.
So you would like the free and reduced, what our current free and reduced percentage is?
Yep.
Mhm.
I don't even know if you would still have that, because everyone still had to fill out the form, right? But I don't know that we
No,
know.
so the problem is everybody is eligible for free lunch. There's no free and reduced this year. Everybody's eligible for free lunch. I don't want to get into it, but there's a thing called the virtual gateway that compiles some
Like,
data from families
who
at the
gets
state
benefits.
level. Okay.
you might get different kinds of
Yeah,
benefits,
so
right?
even though everyone's free, you could still show up on the virtual gateway and you are eligible for free meals in another way, right? We keep track of those. But we have very limited, if any, actual applications for free and reduced because we don't need to.
Gotcha.
Um,
I know some people still had to because of it impacted other things that they might need.
yes, yes,
Okay.
Yep.
All right,
yes,
so,
that's a good question. Yes, you are right. But as it stands right now, everyone receives it. So that's where we are, but I can get you that information.
yeah, just for the next time. I think.
Yeah, certainly.
I just have one other question, not
Yeah.
necessarily money wise, but with now that we're talking about lunch, has there been any improvement, or is it still the same with the food shortages occurring? I know last time Ken talked to it about, and it affected our options. Is that getting any better?
I'm not sure
or-
it's gotten any better, but it hasn't gotten any worse. So
Okay.
we're still able
So we're
to.
maintaining.
Yeah, we're, and Ken would be able to speak better to
Yeah.
that, and I'll have them back in January after the first of the year to do their quarterly update.
Mhm.
But we're not worse. We're not
Okay.
struggling to find food.
Right.
I'm just not sure there's options above and beyond. what
But
we
we're
have
maintaining
right now.
where we
Yes.
were.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
great. That's good enough for me.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's all.
Excellent. Jill?
We don't meet till January.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you every meeting until then anyway, just because
It's on the agenda.
No problem.
Okay, so our next meeting is January 4th, I believe. I was just looking at it and it went right out of my head.
Yep, January 4th.
January 4th. So on that agenda, the one thing that we wanted to do is the warrants 35 and 36 will be on that, and then whatever other ones need to, because they weren't in the folder, or at least we didn't see them, so it's possible we missed them, or so we'll need to do that. Let me know if you need me to come in and sign, or if we need, how we'll do that, if we can do a DocuSign or something for that, if they need to be signed before January. So our meeting in January 4th will be a regular business meeting, and then I think it's the 14th will be the next working group meeting. Oh, sorry, 18th. January 4th and 18th. Is there anything else that we had talked about today that needs to be on the next agenda?
The formative discussion for the evaluation process, but I don't, just one person. I think it would make sense to have it be either later in January or early February. I know our work groups are,
So we could do it on the 18th meeting if you want, and it could just be, we could have that before we break out into the work groups.
and I don't know what Stephen thinks too, like if it makes sense to have more time and go a little bit later in January, or beginning of February, or what you think might work best.
I think having another opportunity for the work group to meet might make sense. So if we did the work group and then do it either after in that meeting or the first meeting in February, unless you want to try to get together sooner. I just know, I feel like this next 6 weeks feels like it's really
A
only
lot.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like we talked about earlier at the subcommittee, the format really is this ongoing process, but I think having it on the agenda to have a more formal discussion about it in either the 18th or the first meeting in February, I think makes sense.
I'm okay with the first meeting in February, just to knowing that this is gonna be like a crunch time. As long as, whatever else people think.
Okay, so we can revisit then on January 4th and see, but we won't need it to be on that.
Even if by the 8th, if we discuss whether or not we need to have another subcommittee
Mhm.
before the 18th, I'm fine with that too.
Are we going to be revisiting the capacity issue at all? I know I've gotten a lot of questions about that lately, because it's that time of year.
We are looking forward to, can I even share?
I was just wondering.
Addressing the school committee as a group. Our next meeting is January. I have it at the tip of my
12th.
tongue. Thank you.
Welcome.
And we're going to be meeting in person. The plan is meeting with Stephen and Adam as well. And kind of as a whole committee, having some discussion questions and kind of moving forward with a presentation to provide to the school committee as well.
Would that presentation be available for the 18th, do you think? Because we could flop it. We could have the 4th be another work group meeting and then have the 18th be,
Can I get back there on that? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
we just need to know by when to be able to post it, the Thursday before.
I feel
which is
like the
I
8th
would be-
might be a little soon.
I would just, with that week, I would say the sooner we have it, the better. Jackie
So the other
can get
thing
it
is, we can
posted.
also, we can shorten the amount of time that we do for our work group meetings, because, I think some of this stuff, I don't want to push it off. So if we can consider at the 4th, if we want to not have a work group meeting in 18th, we could try to have all of the committees meet separately. If we feel like we need to have a full business meeting on the 18th. I think that's logical way to handle it, because I feel like this is where things start to really happen. So, if we need to talk about doing something different, I'm open to that.
Just for context, our first February meeting is February 1st, just so people know that.
And then February is weird too because of
The vacation.
vacation. So, and then we start getting crazy with all the budget stuff, really getting into budget stuff. So, it might be that we, decide that we can't afford to have work group meetings every other meeting, and maybe we do, the committees might have to meet separately as long as the meetings are posted. I don't think it's a problem. So, anyway, is there anything else to discuss?
And yes,
Okay.
because, like being as a member of that school capacity, I kind of feel like if there are specific questions that are being posed out there, I'd love you to email them to me so that as a committee, when we meet, we can talk about them and hopefully be able to answer those. So if you have questions, and you want to compose together an email or something that people are having, and then on that 12th meeting, I can also present that to the committee and we can hopefully include that in our presentation. So to be proactive rather than reactive to questions after the fact.
And
I think it was more just updates though, like people are asking like, what's gonna happen? So not necessarily anything like specific for the committee to be able to answer, more just like where do we stand? Because it is crazy. We're almost in January and it's just that time that people are inquiring like, hey, what happened to that? Like COVID, is a huge focus, but this is still back burner kind of the hot topic that people are inquiring about, not necessarily anything specific.
But if anyone has specific
Yes, please.
questions, they can reach
Email
out to
me.
you.
Megan Shepherd, either one,
Mhm.
or if they know someone that is on the committee as well personally, feel free to reach out to them
Okay.
and share those questions.
I think that would be great too, just so we can, people feel like, even if they aren't on the committee, at least they have a voice.
Yes.
So that's great. Okay. Anything else? Hearing nothing, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.